Which brings me on to my next topic. So I made a forum post yesterday. Oh my god, bro. I feel like WoW players just don't want to play multiple classes. It's like, or they don't, it's like, I have suffered for so long, everyone else deserves to suffer. Meanwhile, their game is fucking dying. So I don't know. I'm gonna go through this, my suggestions. Funny enough, I would say no one really disagrees with the valor point. I think there was one comment about the valor points, but like the Mythic Plus changes, everyone's just disagreeing with it. And I do not really understand why. No one has given me like a really good explanation as to why this would be bad. I feel like it's just because it is a change, and we don't want changes. Hashtag no changes in my retail WoW. Mythic Plus, and this is the funniest thing, the argument was that it's like Mythic Plus is already very lucrative with gear compared to the other avenues, so it's fine. But it's like, bro, just because everything else is shit with gear doesn't mean that Mythic Plus is fine. You need to fix that shit too. Like, you need to fix the gear all around, right? I'm just talking about Mythic Plus here in a vacuum. But obviously, if you make these changes for Mythic Plus, you would have to make changes for raid and PvP. But anyways, Von Monger here. So this is my forum post. Hello dear WoW enjoyers, let's talk about the elephant in the room, how punishing rather than rewarding Mythic Plus really is, and my suggestions to maybe fix. Of course, this is my opinion and would like for a civil discussion and opinions in response, because for some reason, you have to say that you want a civil discussion and opinions in response, otherwise people just lose their fucking mind because they forget how to be civil. Anyway, so on to the valor points. Valor points. Currently, valor points are uncapped, which I think is a good thing and a step in the right direction, but we can make it better. Daily or weekly challenge to get a big chunk of valor points, still farmable as it is now. So basically, when you do your Mythic Plus, you still get valor, but obviously the amount you get in Mythic Plus valor is really not that big. But if you have a daily challenge or a weekly, people who can't play for too long will still get a decent amount of valor, which would help them get their gear. Okay, that's pretty much the logic behind. Also can get a big chunk, and a weekly challenge of X amount of Mythic Plus. As an example, of course, can debate what the challenges are, similar to Conquest Weeklies. Basically, yeah, exactly. Like, that's all it is. Valor points, I want to be like Conquest Weeklies, as well as the daily valor bonus. And I think Conquest Weekly, Conquest Dailies should also have, what's it called? Should also be a thing, right? And in my opinion, you should remove the Conquest cap as well. Like, why? Vault should have an option to award valor points if there are no other good options for gear from the weekly vault. I mean, kind of self-explanatory, but what's the purpose of having so much valor? If you have this much valor, then it's like, you know, the fuck you gonna do with all of it? You can't upgrade that much gear. However, this brings me to point number 3. Ability to buy a 0 out of 12 upgraded or whatever max upgrade is, targetable gear from a vendor. So basically all the dungeon loot, you can buy it if you want with valor. Obviously, how much it costs and whatever, I'm not talking about that. Blizzard can decide. It's not a like something that I'm gonna have like the numbers for. Thus making you able to target the items you want rather than farming a dungeon over and over to get it. So basically, you farm enough valor, you're missing the trinket that you want from a dungeon, you go buy the trinket, you upgrade to 12 out of 12, boom, you're done. Right? Mythic Plus. So these are the valor changes that I propose. I don't think anyone really has an issue with it. I think it solves a big issue. And honestly, if only this is implemented, Mythic Plus is already going to be in a way better state. Just because you won't have to grind the same dungeon over and over to get the item you want, if ever. And sometimes you even, like, after grinding it for like months, you finally get it, but it's like, well, here's the next patch within like a few weeks, so everything you've done is kind of useless. Targetable gear, basically, this is what valor points are. Anyways, moving on to Mythic Plus. This is big. Oh, this got people fucking fuming. Whew. Okay, remove the Mythic Key item. Make Mythic Plus a queuable dungeon, which leads me to point number 2. Okay, so if you remove the key, meaning when you fail a run, the key will not get lower because there's no key anymore, right? The way you queue into a Mythic Plus would be based on your Mythic score. Reduce the amount of Mythic Plus from 2 to 15. 2 to 15 is basically where you get item levels. Instead, make it just 2 to 5, but the 5 would be equal to a 15, the 4 would be equal to like a 9, the 3 would be equal to a 6, and the 2 would be equal to a 3, right? Basically, 2 would add an affix, 3 would add an affix, 4 would add an affix, and 5 would add an affix, as well as the proper scaling for the difficulty. This would actually make it so that point number 1 would make sense, because if you're queuing between 2 to 15 or higher, it's like, bro, like, good luck finding a match, right? So like queuing to dungeons already is a pain in the ass if you're DPS. Can't even imagine like queuing into a Mythic Plus as DPS when you have 2 to 15 options. If you have 2 to 5 options, that's fine. If you want to go for 6, you have to pre-make a group for that, right? Makes sense. 6, 7, 8, 1, whatever, like however high you want to go, you make a group for that. Basically, yeah, this is what it says. 2 and affix, 3 and affix, 4 and affix. In order to queue into 2, 3, 4, 5, you would need to have a certain Mythic Plus score, probably also item level, which is already integrated into the game, so might as well make use of it. I mean, this was a point of contention for a good chunk of the comments. Why? I don't know. This does not affect the higher end players. The only ones who might find it a bit more challenging would be the, quote unquote new players, like the bad players. And honestly, the bad players barely finish at plus 10 anyways. Like, they don't really do plus 10s. They do like plus 7s and plus 6s and 5s and shit like that, which means they would be in the 2 and 3 and 4 maybe without much of an issue. The jump from 2 to 3 to 4 is not really that high. It's the jump from 4 to 5 that's going to be the highest, and that's the end tier, like the higher tier of players. So they can do a 5 regardless. Also, point number 3, Valor upgrades would be limited to your Mythic Plus score, so if you are unable to queue into a Mythic 5, you can only upgrade to, let's say, 10 out of 12, right? So basically what would happen is, if, let's say, you want to go into a Mythic 5, and you need a certain item level, and you need a certain Mythic score. You might get the Mythic score, but you don't have the item level. The only way for you to get the item level would be to upgrade your Valor. However, you can't upgrade to 12 out of 12 until you finish the Mythic 5s and get a certain score, right? So you finish the Mythic 4s, you got your score high enough, you can upgrade to 10 out of 12 Valor, which would be very feasible to do Mythic plus 15 with 10 out of 12 items. You don't have to have fully stacked gear to do Mythic 15s right now. Never has that been an issue. So again, solves the problem of this. Right. Number 4 is achieving a Mythic Plus score on the level of, let's say, for argument's sake, a Mythic 8. You would get a cosmetic reward of a dungeon set Mythic raid quality appearance. So basically, cosmetics. Like if we're implementing the 2 to 5, you can still do Mythic 6, 7, 8, whatever. And then as you keep going, there's incentive to keep going. You can get a cosmetic quality appearance. The only way to increase your Mythic Plus score is to do higher Mythic tiers. Therefore, you're getting more rewards, right? Like cosmetics. So again, you can get a mount, you can get a pet, you can get a set, whatever, and then it's like, so you get a basic set, let's say a basic appearance, which should be cool and unique at Mythic 8, but then at Mythic 12, you get the same appearance, but like a Mythic raid quality of it. So if you know in WoW, like you have the normal gear visuals, you have the heroic gear visuals, which is like basically a recolor, and the Mythic one has like a certain like extra shine to it and just looks a bit different and more robust, right? That's exactly what you can do with a Mythic Plus, right? You can just add seasonal sets, which you can only get on that patch, on that season. 5, and this is what people really don't like, remove timer. Apparently people really love the timer for some reason. I don't know why. It doesn't really add anything. It just makes it more punishing, but whatever. Remove timer, very contentious topic. I don't see a reason to have a timer. If someone wants to spend 3 hours on a dungeon trying to clear it, it is their right to do so. Yeah, I think it is. The punishment is already the amount of time they spent doing it. Yeah, if they spend 3 hours trying to clear like a Mythic 5, like, I mean, fuck it, let them. If someone does it faster, their reward should be the amount of time they saved doing so. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. I personally don't like the timer. I actually like. It's not that I hate it. It's not that I like it. I feel like it's irrelevant, right? So there's no reward to the timer really. It only has downsides, and the biggest downside is people see you're not gonna finish the timer, they quit, and then you're left there standing holding your dick and jerking off because there's nothing else you can do because you're not gonna finish it on time with 4 people or at all. So no timer, probably less levers, less trolls as well, and also no key, so it's a queue. Again, solves that problem. It's like you can just re-queue, right? It's not like you have to downgrade your key, now you have to rerun the dungeon to upgrade to a 15 just so someone can dodge again and shit like that. So solves the thing that annoyed me the most with Mythic Plus by far, and that's levers. 6. Mythic Plus should always reward 5 items, 1 per character. It never feels good to be the guy running 10 dungeons but having the worst RNG and getting 0 items. And this happens multiple times to multiple people. Me and a few guildies had it happen to them. Unless someone was funneling gear to us, we were not getting items for shit in Mythic Plus. 10 runs, by the way, is approximately 6 to 10 hours. That's a substantial amount of time wasted to get absolutely nothing for it. Especially if, let's say, you don't do the valor changes and there's a valor cap, you legit did nothing for 10 hours. You just completely wasted your time. You got absolutely nothing to show for it. Not a good feeling. Anyways, here comes the fun part. People losing their shit. Oh boy, here we go again. Save some time, move this to general discussion. The people of DRS actually like WoW. Yes, I'm sure you do. And doesn't matter what happens, you will still like WoW. Because you guys are playing this game in the worst iteration of it ever, and you're still fine with it. And I don't know if people notice, but there's like 75% less players playing WoW right now. And Mythic Plus. Just because you like it doesn't mean that's like you should prevent others from liking it too. Alright, let's talk about the elephant in the room, how punishing rather than rewarding Mythic Plus really is. Except Mythic Plus is by far the most rewarding. Again, comparing diarrhea to shit is not a good comparison. Mythic Plus is by far the most rewarding from endgame content. It is. But all endgame content rewards are fucking dog shit. You get 40 to 66% end of dungeon drops that can be upgraded to heroic raid equivalent loot, and vault that drops mythic raid equivalent. I'm not even talking about the vault here. I'm just talking about the Mythic Plus. Vault is a separate system, which in my opinion is also problematic. Better than the first iteration, sure, but still problematic. 40 to 60%, yeah, that's a very low chance for the amount of time you invest. Oops. Straight up. Raiders can upgrade loot, and vault is limited to the difficulty they complete. Even Ian is saying it is too rewarding, and that is literally the problem. He's saying that is too rewarding. How many classes, how many specs can you feasibly play per patch? If you're playing every spec on a class, you can maybe have one more alt with one spec on it to be as competitive. That's not a too rewarding system. That is an atrocious system for something that is seasonal. WoW is a very seasonal game. When a patch comes out, everything before it is goddamn awful and useless. It helps you to have a leg up, sure, but it's like you replace almost all of it within a few weeks. That's not a good system. And you refarm the same shit again and again, only to have it irrelevant. So, if the gear is irrelevant, let us have it. If the gear is not irrelevant, then sure, I would understand, but the gear is relevant. If this was horizontal progression, let's say it was ESO, and gear is maxed out always, yeah, I don't care about this. This doesn't matter then. Yeah, you invest time, you get rewards, and you get to keep your rewards, but that's not how the game works. The game literally makes you lose all your items every patch. Everything you do is useless. So if it's useless, let us have it. Currently, Valor points are uncapped, which I think is a good thing and a step in the right direction. They only did uncapped Valor because of the experimentation and shortened season. Bro, this shortened season is usually what a patch would be. I know they only did it for Uncapped Valor. Like I said, it's a step in the right direction. I know they're gonna probably cap Valor in Dragonflight. I think that's a step in the wrong direction. It's too much and really upsets the endgame loot progression even more in regards to PvP and raid. Again, you're comparing diarrhea to shit. Also, by the way, PvP loot is actually not even that bad. It's bad, but it's like compared to raid, it's way better. Non-key pushers are left in the dirt even more than usual seasons. Yeah, again, the problem here is the other systems, not Mythic Plus. Previous Valor Cap was too restrictive, but Uncap is too much. Oh, so, okay, where would you draw the line then? You wouldn't. There's no line to draw. Everything, any cap would be too restrictive. Reduce the amount of Mythic Plus from 2 to 15 as the loot item less scaling to something like at 2 to 5. What would the purpose of this be? Save time. Also less key wastage. Also less runs to get to the 15s. Remove timer. No, the timer is what makes Mythic Plus a challenge. No, it's not. The timer is not a challenge. People who think the timer is a challenge are like delusional. The timer is not a challenge. People who are doing a plus 22 and see the time, they're not going to make the timer, they're usually going to stick around and finish it anyways. It's like, yeah, fuck it, just do it. Might as well. It's a plus 22. They're not like, you know, the timer literally is just a challenge mentally for players at lower brackets. That's all the timer is. It's not a challenge for someone doing a plus 26. Also, this doesn't affect, let's say, MDI, because MDI, they would still have a competition of who clears it faster. It doesn't matter what the time limit is. It's whoever clears it faster, so it doesn't even matter. The scaling alone is very soft. I agree, and he says this here too. Please remember that he said the scaling alone is very soft. The timer and having to pull at a certain pace is the challenge. We don't want 5-man raids. Who's, like... How does this turn it into a 5-man raid? Removing the timer does not turn WoW into a 5-man raid. The dungeon is still the dungeon. Just because some people will take 3 hours to do something that is like extremely hard doesn't mean it's a raid quality like content. It's still a dungeon. Some people will clear it in 20 minutes, some people will clear it in 40 minutes. There's just no timer. This makes absolutely no sense. Mythic Plus should always reward 5 items. LMAO, so you are just entitled for loot. I'm entitled for my time. The more I read this, the more I see you just want handouts. Yes, because doing the content and getting rewarded for doing the content is handouts. Doing the content and not getting rewarded for the content is why you stop doing the content. You know, like, how fucking stupid. But again, I mean, I'm a paladin talking to another paladin, like we will... Yeah, it's like, maybe I'm the stupid one, I don't know. But this doesn't make any sense to me. What would the purpose of this be? He answers the key levels would be massively jarring and progress would feel fast. Yeah, the progress would feel fast. The massively jarring is kind of like, I don't really agree. It's already considered pretty jarring at 4.7.10 when the new affix is added. For noobs, last thing the game needs is 2.7. I don't know why he had 20. Like, this guy literally can't count. You'll see this over and over again. This will come back over and over as he goes. He makes absolutely no sense. I don't know why he added 2, 7, 11, 15, and 20, because I only said 4 affixes, not 5. But whatever. He also doesn't understand what I mean by the other stuff. Tell you a secret. Every key past 15 has a 20% chance to drop an extra item. At 20, you're 100% to get 4 items. At 25, you're guaranteed to get 5 items. When it used to drop 3 baseline, it dropped 5 at 20, and 22 had a 40% chance at a 6th item. You'd know that if you did the content though. I did do the content, and you know what? People who are doing 20s and 25s don't need the extra loot. So this system helps absolutely no one. Who cares? If you're doing a plus 20, the last thing you need is Mythic Plus loot. You need the fucking loot from the vault. Any extra loot you're gonna get from Mythic Plus is irrelevant to you. So all the extra gear you can get, from higher Mythic Plus means absolutely nothing. You are already way over it. Or are you telling me you're carrying a person at plus 25s to give him 1 extra loot? Give me a break. Yeah. And I told him this, I actually do know this. I don't see a reason for this though. As it stands, Mythic Plus, if done in a pug, take approximately 40 to 60 minutes of your time, 34 minutes per run. That's just how the dungeons are. 10 to 15 minutes forming a group, usually. 5 minutes to actually start once the group is formed. Rough estimate. Having the 20% increased chance is so low, and again, it's not much of a reward for how inaccessible that content is for vast majority of players. And by that content, I mean higher Mythic Plus, where you actually get the 20% increase. I don't see a lot of people doing 15s, let alone 20s. I mean, there's a good chunk of people doing 15s, don't get me wrong. But a lot of players are in the 7s and 10s and shit like that, which is fine. I don't care. Like, they can be lower and some people can be higher. That's fine. People who are doing 18s are a dime a dozen. Like, they're like the top 1%, not because they're so good, but because they're so bored and like don't appreciate their fucking time. Okay, Mythic Plus, if done in a pug, takes approximately, for a rough estimate, this is a gross over exaggeration. No, it's not. 40 minutes would be the minimum time required for you to form a group, to get to the dungeon, and to finish the dungeon. No, that's not a gross exaggeration. If you're doing a pug, 40 minutes is the minimum amount of time like you can estimate, and can go up to at least 60 minutes. It can honestly be even more. Depends how picky you are with the people you choose, but 40 minutes is a very, very generous estimate. It's not much of a reward for how inaccessible. Everyone has access to a key. Everyone can join or create a group. Mythic raids are inaccessible. Mythic Plus is far from it. So see, this guy doesn't understand what he's talking about, because the inaccessibility is clearly referred to doing 20s and 25s. Okay. Just because it's the most rewarding doesn't mean it's good. Maybe it means the other forms of content need to up their loot as well, which is what I said. Okay. They only did uncapped, yeah, not a good design for loot for other content. This is like about the uncapped valor that's only temporary. I said it's not a good design for loot the other content, but if I start talking about loot in all forms of content, this post would be 3 pages long. That's what I'm talking about Mythic Plus in a vacuum, because I don't want to bring my thoughts about how raid loot should work into a Mythic Plus discussion. It's already like too much. The purpose is you could make it a queuable dungeon rather than a key, which demotes. So the purpose of making 2 to 5 instead of 2 to 15, you can make it queuable. If you have 2 to 5, you would be expecting very long queue times, especially as DPS. So you are just, I just want to play more than one class at a time. I also like my time. The current loot does not allow that. Rough estimate, discussion. How long would it take you to form a pug and finish the run for plus 15 in a regular season? Heck, probably even now. Inaccessible, and again, I'm talking about the higher keys. Clearly this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Yeah, now he replies to me, just because it's the most rewarding. Even if raid got a buff to drops, Mythic Plus as it is now would still blow it out of the water because of upgradable loot and vault drops being higher than the content completed. But you just said a few posts ago, upgradable loot is only, at best, heroic raid level. So who cares if it is, because it's not competing with the mythic raid, so who cares. If raid got a buff, also mythic raid gear would be more more accessible, and same with heroic. Also, the buff doesn't have to go like for all of them at the same level, right? A normal might have like a 200% increase, heroic would have a 100% increase in drops, and mythic can have a 50% increase in drops, right? All of this can easily be like adjusted to compete with Mythic Plus. And again, Mythic Plus outside of Vault does not reward you that high of an item level. It just gets you a nice startup. Let's say like this: if you did Mythic raiding and you go to the next tier, you start at heroic item level. You don't need to do Mythic Plus for gear for the second season if you are fully stacked on Mythic raid gear. The problem is you can only have, realistically, one character who is stacked with Mythic raid gear. Maybe 2, but usually one character, maybe 2 specs, at most. But yeah, it's pretty much how it is. Okay, the purpose is you could make it queuable dungeon. LMAO, Mythic Plus does not belong to queuable content, because this is the funniest thing. Let's end that discussion. There's a reason LFR has major abilities completely turned off. This is why I'm saying, I don't know if people are like super dumb, don't understand what they're saying, or they're just paladins like me and they're set about their way and will make any argument that doesn't even make any sense. LFR is a completely different atrocity from queuing into a Mythic Plus. There is absolutely no requirements to go into an LFR. Absolutely none. Mythic Plus queuing would require you to have a Mythic score and gear. Mythic score you can only get by completing Mythic Pluses. So in order to get to a Mythic Plus 3, based on how I describe them, Mythic Plus 3, you would have to have the Mythic score of somebody who completed majority, if not all, Mythic Plus 2s in good standing and all that stuff. And again, Mythic score can easily be attributed to how many times you died, your damage, or whatever. Like, again, I don't know how they calculate Mythic score. I'm sure it's not just completion. Other factors come into play. Okay? Probably not deaths and whatnot. I don't think they calculate that. Most likely it's about how fast you finish the run. So that's number one, Mythic Plus score. Now, later on, he says something like, well, people can get carried for the Mythic Plus score. Okay. Add item level into that equation then. Now you need item level and Mythic score to queue to higher Mythic Pluses. Very different from what LFR is. So comparing to LFR is like so dumb. Some do no damage and you get buffed for wiping. Yeah, again, like this comparison is just so dumb. It's like he would try to make anything make sense even if it doesn't make any sense. Plenty of people play more than one class. Okay, we're gonna go back to that. Ooh, man, more than one class, let me tell you. That's a fun discussion. Okay, how long would it take you to form a pug and finish the run? Typical runs can be finished in 25 to 30 minutes and 5 minutes at most to fill. Okay, a typical run at what level? That's the big question. Also, 25 to 30 minutes. Maybe if it's Tyranno Sith, it's 25 to 30 minutes. Because the timer on Tyranno Sith, I believe, is 33 minutes or something like that. And most people finish it with like maybe 2 minutes to go. At like plus 15s. So all the other dungeons are like 44 minutes. And people finish it with like 1 or 2 minutes to spare. So that's already a lie. 5 minutes to fill? Bruh. I had times when I made a group and I waited like 20 minutes easily. And people came and left and came and gone like on repeat because you could not find a tank or a healer. But sure. Whatever. Even then. 35 minutes per run to not get a reward. Not great. Okay. Not much of a reward for how inaccessible that content is for vast majority of players. It's not inaccessible to anyone. Everyone has a key. Everyone can get a 2 going. And again, this is the guy I was replying to, and he doesn't even read what the reply is about. It's clearly referring to the plus 20s and plus 25s. 3-minute travel and 15-minute run, then play the game. Again, who's talking about the 2s? This guy is like, again, this is what I'm saying, like us paladins, like fucking talking to a wall. Like he would try to twist the argument so bad in his direction that it's like just to somehow make sense in his mind. But it doesn't make sense because you're not even talking about what I'm talking about. Never mind that I don't think there's a single thing in-game designed for the vast majority of players. There is normal raiding, heroic dungeons, right? It's like, it's designed for the vast majority of world contents, vast majority of players. And Mythic Plus currently fits that bill way better than almost everything else. And just because it fits the bill doesn't mean it's in a good state. I mean, yeah. And again, even if it fits the bill, my suggestion doesn't change that. It would still fit the bill. So this comment doesn't even argue my point. Just because I want a better change from Mythic Plus, it does not mean it affects the Mythic Plus. Anyone who's doing Mythic Plus would still do the Mythic Plus. Nothing really changes with my... If anything, it just becomes way more accessible. Just because it's already accessible, or like targeted vast majority of players, doesn't mean that it would stop with my suggestion. It would still target vast majority of players. Like, how does this argument even counter anything? Rating, massive time commitment. Yes, I agree. I don't want to talk about rating because I'm talking about Mythic Plus. But yes, rating needs adjustments too. That's not the topic. PvP, yes, has its own issues. I get it. Now what I'm talking about, Mythic Plus. Anyone can do up to a 5, no matter what. No guarantee past that point. And that's what I'm saying, because like this doesn't counter anything. Like, what is he even arguing? He wants 100% drop chance and queuable Mythic Plus. Let's also not forget how fast queues are for any queuable content as it is. Yeah, because no one does that content. Heroic content, who really queues into heroic content past like the first 2 or 3 weeks? No one. So obviously, you're not gonna get a queue. LFR, like once it's not the LFR that you need, no one queues into it anymore. Like, again, a non-argument. And again, he's mocking me for wanting 100% drop chance. Dude, imagine wanting rewards for your time investment. Dude, fucking shame on me. Straight up. Such a dumb idea. Okay, can also be fixed with that. So this is about his comment. Even if raid got the buff to drops, Mythic Plus as it is now would still blow it out of the water. Can also be fixed with dungeon specific sets which won't work or won't help in raid content, PvP content. I know I'm asking for a lot of the dev team. LMAO, Mythic Plus does not belong in queuable content. Let's end that discussion. I don't know why you compare it to LFR. Mythic 2 is Mythic 2, Mythic 3 is Mythic 4, Mythic 4 is Mythic 7, Mythic M is Mythic 10 or Mythic 15. As far as affixes go, difficulty for mobs, HP damage can be adjusted to the higher level of those brackets. Only way to be able to queue into higher Mythic Plus would be to use already implemented Mythic Score, and they added in Shadowlands. Pretty straightforward, like, you know, like, again, comparing this to LFR is a completely unreasonable comparison. But again, us paladins, head to the wall, make anything, like comparing, I don't know, fucking shit to a window. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Plenty of people play more than one class. How many classes or specs? This is the big one. Plenty of people play more than one class. How many classes or specs can you play at high end? And just to give context, there's in Dragonflight, there's going to be 38 specs. Each spec is practically a class onto itself. So you have technically 38 classes. How many classes or specs can you play at high-end content during a single patch? Realistically, if you have a job and stuff, I mean. He will answer that later. Typical runs can be finished in 25 to 30 minutes. At which level of key are we talking about? If you are the one forming group, especially to a bad dungeon, you usually have a hard time finding a proper tank or healer, which is the real delay most times. And again, he doesn't even argue this. He knows this is true. He knows he's lying when he says this. Maybe a +2 or 3 where you don't care about who joins. You can just invite. You can probably just go 4 DPS in a tank and you'll be fine in most 2s and 3s. Like, yeah. He doesn't care about this. He just makes an argument for the sake of an argument. It's not inaccessible to anyone. Everyone has a key. Why would Mythic 2 be the goal? Usually I'd say Mythic 10 or 15, and I can pretty much assume everyone can get up to Mythic 9 at the very least. Yep, I believe even new players can get to Mythic 9. If they're complete beginners, like they know how to play the game, I believe they can make it to Mythic 9. Just requires a bit more time and practice. I agree, not a single thing designed for the vast majority of players. Mythic Plus is by far currently the better option of the other. However, I still think it can improve. I'm being super fucking nice here, bro. This guy was like so dumb. And as it improves, I would expect improvements to the other end game systems, such as removing the raid lock for players on Mythic raids so they can whatever. Again, this is about the Mythic raid, not part of the argument. I'm just like trying to make him understand that it's like, obviously if they make improvements to this, it's not in a vacuum. They need to make improvements across the board. Other problem with Mythic Plus, especially at higher keys, such as 15 and above. People quit quite often if it's a failed run. Some people just troll and leave. Some people are just extremely bad and ruin the run, thus making your key go down. And you have to regrind just to get back to 15 again. Not a very rewarding system. It is by far more punishing than it is rewarding. Add trying to get a specific loot from the Mythic Plus and you got yourself a shit show. Nothing I'm saying here is not true. He wants 100% drop chance, which is why I want to reduce the amount of Mythic Plus categories to make it more accessible as a queue option. Right? Of course, I want 100% loot drop for every participant. Why wouldn't you? And again, he doesn't even answer this. Like, yeah, why wouldn't you want to be rewarded for your time and for your fucking effort? I don't understand this mentality WoW players have. It's like, oh, I'm just playing and not getting anything. That's exactly what I want for my game. Yeah, that is such a good design. Well, maybe we should make Mythic Plus dungeon just like have 10% to drop one item. Yo, that would be so good for my progress. Like, oh my god. It would at least be balanced to raid loot. Like, legit degenerate. What is the downside of having every participant get an item for a run that you spent 40-60 minutes on, from farming to finishing? Can also be fixed with dungeon-specific sets. I already asked general discussion for Mythic Plus specific loot. People don't want to carry multiple gear sets, let alone dungeon-specific. Again, the problem here is not that they don't want to carry it. The problem here is because how the bag systems are restrictive. I don't know why we only have, what is it now? Around 150 slots. Why can't there be 400 slots? You know, it's like, and you already have gear sets as an option, so it's like it's not even that big of a deal. I personally never had a problem with this, but again, I had, so let's say Legion was when I had like the most amount of different loots, and that was like for tanking and for red. And on red I had raid set, I had a Mythic Plus set, I had an AoE set, I had a World Quest set, I had a PvP set, and for tanking I had a PvP and a raid set and a dungeon set, which were like raid and dungeon. Again, a lot of like of the items did intersect, but there were some items you preferred for raid, some items for dungeon. I didn't have a problem with loot, just made a whole lot of fucking sets and updated them as I got new items. It wasn't that big of a deal. It is a problem, but it's a non-issue kind of thing. Because like if you don't want to do this, then don't do this. You know, it's like have one set for everything. You should still be able to do Mythic 15s with set that you use for PvP. It's really not that big of a deal. If your goal is high end, then yeah, being able to customize your gear I think is a pretty interesting and fun part of the game. I don't know why you compare it to LFR, because as soon as it becomes queuable, the expectations change. No, it's not. Why would you change the expectations because queuable? The only difference between queuable and non-queuable is you have to find your own people and go to the dungeon yourself. If you queue into it, you just go to the dungeon with random people who, by the way, you don't talk to anyways. You never make friends in Mythic Plus, right? Very rarely. It's like, who cares? Queuable Gun is expected to have a high rate of success. No. Why? Like, why? Why is queuable content is expected to have a high rate of success? No. That is such a dumb mentality to have. Just because something is queuable, I can queue into Savage Rage in Final Fantasy. I can queue into Savage Raids and Extreme Trials in Final Fantasy. You can actually just queue into them. No, actually, maybe not Savage Raids. Extreme Trials, yeah, I believe. But there's no expectance that's like you're gonna do it. You know, it's like you're just queuing because you want to try it. It's like having this argument is just so what? Well, then remove the expectation. It's like I don't know, give a warning when you queue that's like, hey, this content is hard. Okay. What the fuck? Right? It's like trying to do Palace of the Dead, which is queuable content technically, right? Well, I mean, ish, right? It's like, oh, you queue into it and you expect it to be easy. Well, good luck getting your Necromancer title, I guess. You and I both know the majority of players are terrible at the game. Yep, they are. I don't see, like, this doesn't change anything. That means massive nerfs to content for people who actually like challenge. Why? Just do a higher mythic key. Glass specs. I always play one toon per expansion. See? That's the people I'm talking to. The Paladin, man. The one toon per expansion. Why? I know 2 people who I run with that have 2 toons at 2400 plus. By the way, 2 toons means it's only like 2 specs in total. Meaning, let's say he has a Paladin and a Mage, and Paladin is Red or Prot, and Mage is Frost or Fire or Arcane, whatever is current meta, and he's running at 2400 plus. Why doesn't he have 8? Why is PvP in, let's say, something like League of Legends? You can get to masters on every category. You can be an ADC, you can be a support, you can be a mid, you can be a top, you can be a jungler. You can get masters on all of them. Right? Is the massive time investment? Yeah, but the game allows you to do it. And another friend who has 4 alts running 20 plus. Again, 4 alts. Is it 4 specs or is it... I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. Is it 8 specs? Out of 38, though. That's the problem. There's 38 options. Imagine playing something like Elden Ring, and you only make one build and you clear it, and then it's like, well, that's it. That's the game. There are so many options, though. You can rerun the game with different types of builds if that's your thing. And for a lot of people in WoW, that is their thing. They want to try a mage, they want to try a rogue, they want to try a paladin, they want to try a warrior, they want to try a DK, they want to try a demon hunter, right? They want to try tanking, they want to try healing. But you can't feasibly do it, right? You can't feasibly even play 3 specs of the same class most times for a high-end content if you have a job. This guy who has 4 alts running 20 plus, first of all, how much you want to bet that this guy, aside from his main, 3 of them got boosted to 20, like carried by his guild or something? 100%. Your ideas for Valor seemed okay, but wouldn't mind a quest that gave a lot of Valor or Valor from Vault. The rest of it, I had to shield my eyes for a moment. Oh man, this guy. Whew. If you have to shield your eye from wards, I mean, buddy, good luck living in the real world, I guess. Okay, you can still directly go to anything past M5 with the pre-made. You can also pre-made for Mythic 2 and 5, and also there is a Mythic score required and queue into the Mythic 3 to 5, and so not much of an issue, I think. Yeah, because you compare it to the LFR, which is like, makes no sense. Already asked general discussion. This is a problem with bags, which again, I know asking too much from devs, but can be solved with some development effort. 100%, yeah. This is a non-issue. This is like a development issue. This is not a player issue. I always play 1 toon per expansion. So basically out of 38 options, the most you know of is one person who can run 4 classes. Not even sure how many specs per class, but let's be generous and say 8. Literally, that's probably what that person can run. Maybe 8. Would you like to elaborate what exactly is the issue with the rest of it? Yeah, he had to shield his eyes. You can still directly go to anything past M5. So pre-made groups will be harder than queuable. No, why? It's the same difficulty. That makes no sense. But drops will be the same? How does this sound like a good idea? This guy literally has no brain. At this point, I'm pretty much convinced this guy is absolutely like 0 IQ. He doesn't even understand what he's writing anymore. Milo does not belong in queuable content. How do you know? What's the difference between going to the dungeon and clicking a button appearing in the dungeon? There's no difference, it's just a time thing. The most you know of is one person who can run 4 classes. WoW is an MMORPG, not an action RPG. First of all, they need to stop developing it like an action RPG if it's not an action RPG based on what he's saying, because that's kind of how WoW is developed right now. You are supposed to spend time on character progression. Really? What if you don't know which character you want to progress and you want to try them all out? So pre-made groups will be harder than queuable, but drops will be the same. How does that sound like a good idea? Never said that would be harder. Yeah, obviously, like, this is just a dumb fucking argument. WoW is an MMORPG. Yeah, it is also a rather seasonal game that doesn't allow you to completely enjoy it. Yeah, which is a big problem with the design. They made it into an action RPG. Like, they made it into Diablo 3, basically, but they don't give you the loot rewards that Diablo 3 gives you. In Diablo 3, you can do, like, if, let's say, just arbitrary number, rift, what do they call it them? Oh, I forgot the name. You have the rift and you have the timed rift, whatever. You can do the timed rift in the Mythic Plus of Diablo 3. You can get all of your characters, every class, to like the highest tier, right, within the season. You can't do that in WoW. Not even close. You can't even get like 4, realistically, 4 classes, fully built classes. You can't even get 4 of them on, like, for the average player. The corruption BFA, one of the funnest mechanics in BFA, but you couldn't play multiple characters because of how impossible it was to build the character you wanted. With the corruptions you wanted, not more than 2 or so for the amount of time you had and the limited resources. Again, yeah, the problem is, like, it's a seasonal game. That's literally what it is. WoW is a seasonal game that makes loot irrelevant, but then also doesn't give you the loot. So what's the point? The issue here is that WoW is a seasonal game, patches that make your progress invalid every so often. Holding loot hostage when it becomes irrelevant within a few months is not a good feeling. I don't even want to go into how bad it feels to have your progress become rather meaningless when a new patch comes out. I mean, that's pretty much what it is. Would you like to elaborate what exactly is the issue with the rest of it? I was typing it out, actually. Great. Move the mythic key item, make mythic plus a queuable. No. I would be okay with mythic zeros being queuable. So why wouldn't you be okay with mythic pluses being queuable? But there's no conceivable reason for keys to be queuable. This idea has been beaten to death. Again, I have never heard anyone argue this point at all. So, beaten to death is, I guess it's his perspective. Reduce the amount of mythic plus from 2 to 15 as the loot item level scaling to something like a 2 to 5. Basically 2 will add an affix, 3 will add an affix, 4 will add an affix, 5. In order to queue into 2, 3, 5, you would need to have a certain mythic plus. I genuinely understand this. Max item level from plus 5. Again, the plus 5 would be the difficulty of a plus 15. Clearly he didn't read the post. It is what it is. There's no amount of pen rewards I don't really care about. I'd like them, but only if they'd be unique. That's the point of it. Remove timer. This is the part I have the largest issue with. The timer. The timer is what makes it fun and challenging. Again, sure. Mythic Plus is essentially speedrunning scaling content. Oh, so it's an ARPG basically. I know some people don't, but I enjoy beating the timer of progressively harder dungeons. You can still beat the timer. Like, you can still do it faster. Like, the timer doesn't make you go faster, it just makes you go fast enough to beat the timer. If there's no timer, no risk of the timer running out, you can just do like massive insane pulls that are like extremely fucking risky. And if you fail, then it's like, it's fine. It's not a big deal. We tried something cool and fun and exciting and didn't work out. Whatever. We'll go a bit safer. We'll try again next time. I gasp, actually enjoy improving myself and pushing myself to clear more div content. This doesn't stop you though. My suggestion doesn't stop you. Removing the timer doesn't stop you. I think that they could make an alternative or more fleshed out non-mythic plus 5 man feature. Yeah, like the mega dungeons. I like mythic plus and current duration. I know many others do as well. Again, this will not affect you though. If you like the current iteration, you would like the other iteration. You just like Mythic Plus as a whole. So it doesn't change anything once you start running it. It only changes how fast you can get into one and how much loot you get from one. That's all it is. There's a Mythic score requirement. Score requirement to queue wouldn't solve anything because all someone has to do is get carried once and they're in. Again, and what you should say is, but if you add gear item level, that could actually solve the problem of the boostings, right? You can always challenge yourself if you want by going to higher Mythic Plus. 5 isn't the limit. Seckless already explained why your compressed key levels would be a bad idea. He actually didn't, because Seckless doesn't understand what English is. The cosmetic mouthpad purpose is for them to be unique, yes. Yeah, that's like, the rewards, obviously, cosmetic rewards have to be unique. It is what it is. Gen do not understand this. Max item level from plus 5. The plus 5 is in this example is as hard as plus 15. Yeah. The timer is what makes it fun and challenging. You can still speedrun it. The faster you go, the more time you save, but it doesn't punish you for messing up as much. Basically. I know some people don't, but I enjoy beating the timer. Me too. I cleared up to 23s back in the day just for the pure enjoyment of it, but the timer didn't really mean anything. We would just want to go as fast as we can regardless of timer. Just wouldn't get punished for being overly zealous. Having the dungeon take longer for your mistake is punishment enough. This would also allow for people to try crazier pulls since there is no timer for punishment and people won't outright leave when they see timer will run out. That's the biggest issue. It's not how rewarding the timer might feel when you beat it, it's how punishing it is if you don't. No, he didn't explain, Seckless didn't explain shit. Score requirement to queue wouldn't solve anything because all someone has to do is get carried once. What's the difference between that and how it works now? You can add item level and score requirement, that's the issue. That the key levels would be massively jarring. You mean this? I don't know why he added the 20. It's only 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's 2, 7, 11, and 15 in this example. It's still 4 affixes as it is now. Then you aren't understanding. I'll give you another few minutes for it to click. It's different because it's not queuable now. It's what's the difference between that and how it works? It's different because it's not queuable now. Again, it's just like how fast you get into the dungeon. Like, this doesn't make again a non-argument. Like, bro, I'm telling you, paladins, man, we are so fucked up. It's player created, where we pick certain utilities, group comp, get to look at players' run histories, etc. It's nothing unlike what you're asking. First of all, this is toxic, the run histories. I'm just gonna say it right now. Also, these can be faked, because people can just get boosted in both cases, right? So it's like the player run history, if a player has the Mythic Plus score and the item level, his player history would be similar to someone right now with a certain Mythic score. And when they queue, you can see their item level. So this doesn't really change anything. The only reason he would say is because he thinks the player can get boosted. The player can still get boosted. In order to get your Mythic Plus score high enough, you still need to be boosted. If you're like not actually a good player, you're still getting boosted. You can easily boost a Mythic Plus score. It's nothing unlike what you're asking. It's the same exact thing. Yeah, no, the way I see it, his argument kind of works in my favor, because it is. If 2, 4, 7, 10 already feels jarring, meaning 2 through 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 is jarring, thus making it brackets of 2, 3, 4, 5 each one adding the affix would feel less jarring, or am I missing something? You want to condense 2 to 15 to 2 to 5 with each key level adding an affix. Now do the math. He explained pretty clearly why it's a bad idea. No, he actually didn't explain anything. And also, there is absolutely no problem with this. I was saying that having an affix on each difficulty would be more jarring than having to run 2, 3, whatever. That the key levels will be massively jarring and progress would feel fast. What I took from this is that progress would feel faster, which is the whole point of Mythic Plus changes. Make the progress faster. Why you feel that having an affix increase on each difficulty would be more jarring, especially if the punishment for this would be decreased if all other suggestions applied. Yeah, it would be harder. Yeah. Would it be jarring? Not really. The affix is one thing. The exponential gap in difficulty is another. So yes, the exponential difficulty is almost non-existent up until between 4 and 5. By the way, if you look at the graph, which will be linked here later, the difference between 2 and a 9 is like almost non-existent, like percentage-wise. It starts jumping from 10 to 15. The FX is one thing, the exponential gap is difficulty is another. So yes, I have practically never felt the gap in difficulty of mobs. Yeah. Like again, there's almost no gap between the mobs from 2 to 9. The gap starts between like 10 to 15. But honestly, if you can clear a 10, if you are a 10 out of 20 upgraded gear and you can clear a 10, you can clear a 15. Right? It's just a matter of knowing the mechanics. And if you can clear a 10, you probably know the mechanics. Let's see. Sackless, 100% disagree. This is the mega dungeon argument. It's a 5-man raid with 2 difficulties and solid rewards for more casual players. Mount Mog, it's dead before the end of the first month. Yeah, because epic dungeons are fucking trash. Irrelevant for anyone looking for rewards. Then there was the Flex 5-man content known as Torghast. Again, this is not like they ruined Torghast on their own. Like they just didn't make it fun. Guess what? People don't actually do this content enough to justify dev time. True, they don't, because the devs gave up on it before it was even out. Like they made it the worst iteration of Torghast, and it is what it is. I have practically never felt the gap. So you are using anecdote as factual data to speak for the rest of the player base, because there is no research on this. Again, like he's just making arguments for the sake of trying to prove a point he didn't even make. Argue the point. Have you felt the difference? He doesn't say he did. And the reason he doesn't say it is because he doesn't want to feel inferior, right? It's like, I'd play more if. This is a frequent argument that never holds up. Oh, that's what he said here. Yeah, I'd play more if. Completely ignores the player. By the way, I'd play more if there's no Titan forging in raids. Oh, guess what? They removed it in Antorus, and it actually made me want to do mythic raiding again in BFA, because during Antorus I quit. Why? Because I found the best piece of loot, my set piece, Titan Forge, to max item level, like 985 or something, in a heroic run. And I was like, well, what the fuck am I doing mythic runs for? It makes no sense. And it didn't, so I stopped doing mythic runs. Guess what? They removed Titan Forging. I started doing mythic runs again. But again, didn't want to talk about that, so whatever. But this guy is like just clueless. The idea that this content needs to be massively adjusted to catch me or people like me is the height of self-serving narcissism. Yes, the height of narcissism that I want to be rewarded for my time in the game. I am so narcissistic, I only care about myself. I'll play more if completely ignores the players who actually like the game in favor of those who probably won't like it no matter what. Oh, is that why 75% player base left? Because they don't like the game anymore? Maybe the problem is with the game if 75% of the player base left. Just because you like it no matter what doesn't make you like the right person to ask for an opinion. You like the game in its worst iteration, your opinion kind of doesn't matter anymore. You're gonna like it no matter what they throw at you. They can just tell you 10% fucking loot chance on Mythic Plus, and you'll be like, yeah, that's fine, it's more of a challenge. The people like you are not the people WoW is catering to, because you're gonna be fine with anything. You can't live without WoW at this point. So yeah, who they should be catering to? How about the 12 million people who are not playing the game anymore since Wrath? Maybe they should be the ones catered to. I'll be like, but we can't cater to those. They are traitors. They left WoW. We don't want them here. They didn't want to play WoW. Fuck them. It's like so much gating for no reason. I'd be able to play more classes and specs if, to correct your statement, people who like the content will keep liking the content. Though, so I don't see the issue here. But basically, yeah, it's like I'm being so nice to this guy, but like I did ask for a civil conversation, so it is what it is. Oh man, this guy but this guy was really getting on my nerves. You'll see. So you are using anecdotal. That's the only example I can use, as I doubt there is a good statistical research done on the topic. All I can see is numbers are dropping throughout the expansion a lot. We can blame it on systems, maybe on the COOF, but the fact remains there are a lot less players playing. The people who are still playing will probably keep playing if they make some changes to the system, which overall are favorable to players. And players who quit because they felt their time was not being respected, because that's who WoW should be catering to. The people who left, who might still come back, might give it another chance. Okay, this is why I'm saying Sackless is has absolutely zero brain. You fundamentally don't understand the Keystone system. +2 isn't just an affix, it's 6% damage and health, which I mentioned. A 4 is a new affix and 70% damage and health, plus 11% base damage. 15 adds no affix, but it's 172%, nearly 100% more to the base difficulty, unless you legit believe they should keep the 2 to 5 keys the same, and the system should reward max for the 26% harder than 0. Surely don't believe that'll ever happen or is wanted. You are legit the dumbest person alive. That's how dumb this guy is. All I can see is numbers are dropping throughout the expansion. In a month alone, 5.5 million keys have been timed, let alone attempted. That's data, not whatever you are sharing. Okay. All right, here we go. There's my calculator. Calculator, please. Okay. 5.5 million. How many players are there in WoW? Let's be generous. Let's actually be let's understate it. 500,000? Okay. That is an average of 11 keys per player per month. You know what? Let's say only 100,000 people are playing. 55 keys a month. Now, here's the thing. In a month, there's a bit more than 4 weeks, but let's say there's 4 weeks. Let's say the people who are doing Mythic Plus are doing it for the Vault. So each player who is doing it for the Vault only, minus 40. On average, have 15 keys run outside of the Vault per player per month. Are you kidding me? And this guy is telling me that it's a very popular system. Maybe next he will tell me like how many world quests are being done per month. I bet it's probably more than 5.5 million. Oh my god, bro. Like, this guy does not know math or statistics. If I don't understand what I meant by 2 to 5, replacing da-da-da-da-da. Again, even after this, he does not understand. In a month alone, 5.5 million keys. And how many keys were completed during 9.0, 9.1, 9.2 separately? It dropped down by like 50%, if not 75%. I don't have the report on me, but players left the game during Shadowlands in droves. The game didn't respect their time. Mythic Plus, as fun as it is at first, is not something a great majority of people want to do on the same character over and over. That's why people get alts. That's why they get those alts carried by friends, guilds, boosters. That's also why they can't have more than 2 alts on average. It would take too long to reach the same level as the content you want to do with them. That's why if you main a class and you play on multiple specs, you are likely to have maybe one more alt with one spec. There's just not enough time to try everything and play everything, not even close. Fair, I didn't really have any eggs in the basket for my own suggestion. Oh, he's talking to Seckless about the epic dungeons. Alright, so sorry, I don't have the report on me. Okay, newsflash, there's attrition every expansion. Not this big. We are end of expansion right now. The fact that 5.5 million keys have been timed alone means you are being extremely hyperbolic. You're being extremely clueless in understanding what 5.5 million keys means. You do realize 5.5 million keys is actually extremely low, right? In a game that is supposed to have over 1 million players, and again, even if it's 500,000, that's not a lot. That's 5 keys per month per player, basically. If you have 1 million players playing, 5 keys per person is really, really low. I mean, it is what it is. I'm sorry, but I'm actually baffled by why you are so against loot and time saving in Mythic Plus. This doesn't stop you from playing your one class or doing higher keys and getting higher scores. This really doesn't change much to the higher echelon of players. Echelon. Increases ease of access is basically all this is. How to balance it with other endgame content is a whole other discussion. So far, there has been no real argument as how this will ruin Mythic Plus, aside from maybe make it harder for the less skilled players, which is up to the dev team on how they balance it. Also, no one said that the item level should compete with Mythic rating or Heroic rating. It already does. This doesn't negate nor add to it. Okay, last one, this example is as hard as plus 15. No, this jump in difficulty would be very punishing for newer players. Newer players are not doing plus 15s, it doesn't matter. For me, a 15 doesn't feel much different from a 12 or a 13. That's the point. But for someone who are just starting Mythic Plus, they're not doing 12s and 13s, are they? It could absolutely be noticeable. I'd rather there be bloat of incremental difficulty than it being pruned this way. How would that scaling work once you hit the equivalent of 20 and 25? I don't know, Mythic 6 is 20, Mythic 7 is 25? Like, the faster you go, the more time you save. I want to beat a timer though. Bro, just fucking put a timer on. Make an Excel sheet. Like, it's such a dumb argument. I want to beat a timer though. I wouldn't feel as rewarded by some arbitrary sense that I spent less time on it. That's exactly what beating the timer is. You spend less time on it. I think that your view of Mythic Plus is a chore, judging by your thoughts process on this, because currently it is a chore. You're literally, most times, are just doing Mythic Plus 10s. Doing Mythic Plus 15s 10 times a week just for the vault. That is a chore by design. That's how WoW made it. They made it into a chore. I think there should be a lot of different changes with the affixes for it to be more fun and not a chore. But right now, yes, Mythic Plus is a chore. If you like the chore, that's fine. Some people like cleaning their bathroom. I don't. 5 million in a month is nothing to scoff at. It actually is. That's with not everyone even running keys. That's the point, though. Why do you think they're not running keys? And also, I believe most people are running keys because, again, just by far the most rewarding, most accessible content. If you're playing WoW and you're not doing keys, you're not playing endgame at all. Right? Where did you get 26%? Okay, so this is the link, and you can see the stuff there. This is why I'm saying this guy is just so brain dead, bro. Legit, probably fucking a 2 IQ person. Holy fuck. Maybe he's actually 2 years old. I don't know. From the numbers, the key says it amplifies when you put it in the font and website that aggregate that data. Do you honestly believe that a 5 and 6 are exactly the same? You are so dumb. I am sorry, but I am actually baffled by why. I am baffled by how entitled you are for loot and can understand progression. Getting loot faster is still progression. It is a faster form of progression than doing a dungeon and not getting loot. Both are progression. I don't think he knows the meaning of the word progression. You legit want 100% chance for drops. He's still stuck on this. This is like the thing that he doesn't understand the most. It doesn't feel good to do a dungeon that you don't like. That you have 8 dungeons, 7 of which you like, 1 of them of which you don't, but the one that you don't like has the drop that you want. It doesn't feel good to do a dungeon you don't like doing, not getting reward, and wasting your time, and having to do it again, and 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 again. That's the fucking problem, this fucking idiot. Also, no one said the item level should compete with Mythic rating. Considering Blizzard has said Mythic Plus is the 3rd endgame pillar, it does need to compete with rating. But it doesn't. It doesn't need to compete with rating. First of all, it doesn't compete with Mythic rating. It kind of competes with Heroic rating, only because the loot is more accessible. If you double the loot in Heroic, Mythic Plus no longer competes with Heroic. So dumb. The John would be very punching. That's what the dev team is for when Mythic Plus start. Basically, it's like he's talking about how the difficulty jump would be too much. I'm like, yeah, that's up to the dev team to decide. They have the numbers. Like, it's not. Also, new players are not doing 12s and 13s. They're doing 7s and 9s at most. That's what that team's for, blah, blah, blah. I want to beat a timer, though. Add a leaderboard for how fast people clear runs. That should solve your sense of accomplishment. Yeah, basically, it's like you want timer, like arbitrary timer, like a leaderboard. There you go. Currently, Mythic Plus is quite a chore when you are doing it only for the weekly vault for the Mythic raid item level gear. I want it to feel less of a chore. True. The chore doesn't even come from running the dungeon. For me, the chore is setting up a run, finding the key I want to run, finding the right people for the run. That is literally the bigger chore. Running the dungeon is extra. From the numbers, the keys. You are really not catching on to what I'm saying. I don't even know if you're doing it on purpose or literally you are brainless. Here, I'll make it simpler, I guess. Mythic 2 equals 1 affix and 8%. Mythic 3 equals 2 affix, 36%. Mythic 4, 3 affix, 71%. Mythic 5, 4 affix, 172%. Just to give an example to make it clear, the numbers can be adjusted by Blizz however they feel, for all I care, whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm baffled by how entitled you are. I don't like my time wasted. I don't like running Plaguefall for 50 Mythic plus 15s to not get a trinket. That's 40 to 50 hours of my time wasted, not rewarded, as an example, of course. Like, I don't think this guy understands this at all. Consider Blizzard has said Mythic Plus is the 3rd endgame pillar. It does need to compete with raiding. Why though? Why does it have to? See, for example, they made PvP in Dragonflight to not compete with it as much, but it is one of the endgame pillars. Yes, you can still upgrade your PvP items to the PvE levels, but it's a system unto itself and will scale itself in its own content. Not the best of examples, but clearly they want to separate the endgame content to not fight with each other while also supplementing each other. He doesn't reply to this because, again, he has no arguments. Look, your ideas are bad. No one who actually plays the content likes them. Your if only it was different ideology would not bring in... First of all, it's not an ideology. If something sucks and you make it good, people will go to do that something again. Like, it's not an ideology. This is kind of how it works. If people feel like their time is wasted, they don't want to waste their time. If they feel like their time is rewarded, they want to get rewarded for their time. Simple as that. It's not an ideology. It's like just people think that way, and they're right to think that way. Blizzard already gave general discussion what they want, and they just complain about something else. I don't know what they ever gave general discussion that they complain about something else. Also, just because they gave them one thing doesn't mean that they've solved all the problems. There's so many problems with the game. One thing is definitely not. We explained all your points and now you're just talking in circles. You literally explained nothing. Second said best. Yeah, go to the people DRS actually like, wow. Clearly they don't, because the game is just gonna die at this rate. Like, you don't like your game. You want it to die. Actually, haven't explained at all how it would be bad. Basically, I'm just saying that's like, yeah, they didn't explain anything, and these were their main arguments. Q is bad. Look at LFR. That was one of his arguments. And Mythic Plus will compete with Raid, and it already does. Those were the only arguments. Oh, sorry, and the timer, like because the guy likes the timer. And yeah, I want loot. Yeah. I mean, I want loot even without these changes. I want loot. I don't understand, you know. Actually, haven't explained it all. Everything has been explained by multiple people. Like, clearly you don't know what an explanation means. This alone shows you are completely out of touch with reality. Okay, look. A difference from this to this is nothing. A difference from this to this is almost nothing. Wow, it's twice as hard? Wow! Mobs have twice as much HP? Oh my god. That's literally all it is. Wow, twice HP. Wow. You know, and twice damage, I'm assuming. This to this is the only big jump. This is the massive jump. This is like over 100% jump. Okay. I'll give you that. But let's be real. This is not a challenge for people who are good at the game already. Like, from here to here, this is not going to be a challenge for people who are good at the game. This would still be too easy for them. Mythic 0, and by the way, this is like plus 172% from a Mythic 0. It's really not a lot. It's like times 2.25 of whatever Mythic 0 is. It's a joke. It's literally a joke. Like, it's like, you know, think about it that way. Like, people look at these percentages and they'll be like, oh my god, it's plus 100%. What does that mean? Oh, it's times 2. Oh, okay. This alone shows you are completely out of touch with reality. How is this out of touch with reality? The numbers were to make Seckless understand what I am saying. Again, he didn't read the whole thing. I went through that the numbers can be tweaked a bit. It doesn't have to be 172. It can be 150. It can be 120, whatever. Like, there's no... Everything is being explained to multiple people. Basically what I said, you haven't shown any way that this would affect top tier players. Yeah, again, he doesn't show any way that this would affect anyone. The only one who said that it would affect somebody, well, I think it was the Hunter guy, and he said that's like new players would have a hard time, but it's like new players already have a hard time with 12s and 13s anyway, so it's like this doesn't affect them either. I'm baffled by how entitled you are for loot. Why are you anti-progress and pro-stagnation though? Not getting the last 2 pieces of gear you're trying to get for weeks or months is not progression. It's why people stop playing the game. Oof. Big hit there. That basically shut him up. Gear progression isn't the only type of progression, but it is the worst version. Once you run out of dopamine hits, you have to start over to chase the high. Jesus Christ, this guy's just like copying Jordan Peterson or some shit. You're the mouse with the release button, pressing it until you die of starvation, then complaining that you couldn't press it faster. You are legit the dumbest person I've ever met. I've ever had the pleasure of interacting to on the forums. I understand why people don't go to the forums, because you have these degenerates on it, but yeah, it is what it is. You'll not ruin the one piece of content that's consistent, please. I mean, how does it ruin? No one even tells me, but it is what it is. Okay, he liked the Valor changes. With all due respect, peace and love, I must say, outside of those 2 ideas, which is basically Valor. Yeah, he doesn't like the Mythic Plus ideas. Doesn't say why. No reason. This is already a thing. Pretty sure it's not, but whatever. Gonna be honest, you make Mythic Plus even slightly easier to gear from, and the raiders on GD are going to overload the entire internet with a non-stop barrage of... Bro, they should get more loot too. I'm not against them getting more loot. I'm just talking about Mythic raiding. One thing I'd maybe change is making the Covenant daily dungeon callings actually reflect the current dungeons for keys, as well as queue dungeons so that everyone can do them. I do miss getting free gold or valor just for doing content. Yeah. I mean, there you go. Decent suggestion. That's fine. And yeah, that's basically me summarizing that, like, people here are pretty much idiots. But anyways, that was my forum adventures. Let me know what you think. Maybe I'm the idiot who doesn't understand why people love going on an endless treadmill to make everything useless once the content is over, you know? It is what it is. But yeah, the state of WoW is in shambles, and the people who think that's like, well, I'm having fun, so fuck everyone else, are the ones who are gonna probably kill this game. You know, it's like, what do you call it? They are the mother who would poison their child a bit just to be able to take care of it. That's what these people are. They're ruining their own game just so they can say, I am the one who stayed with this game for last. I am special. I deserve rewards from Blizzard. That's who these people are. It is a very sad fate. And honestly, WoW is the one who caused it. So it is what it is. These people, and again, that's us paladins, man. We get an ideology going or an opinion, and we're just gonna shove it through the door. Doesn't matter if the key doesn't fit. We're just gonna shove it through anyways. Anyways, that's it for the video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Tell me what you think. Maybe I'm the crazy one. Peace out.